Hi, my name is Ben Goldberg. I'm at a company called Spot Hero, where I'm a data engineer. So at Spot Hero, we have our data team structured such that all the teams outside of the data engineering team can interact with us and tell us the kind of insights and information they might need us to produce. Specifically, we have a group of data scientists, we have business analysts, and then we have other C-level executives who might want to know the performance of the business. So they all have very different needs and different types of information that we need to provide for them. So what we do is we have a data product manager and a data engineering manager, and the two of them work together to interface with the other aspects of the business to get that information down to the data engineering team. Then, given that, the data engineering team typically works together as one unit to try and work through a big project at a time. We tend to prefer to work as one cohesive team rather than as individuals on little tasks here and there. So, as a data engineer, a typical day for me tends to be coming into work and taking a look first by opening up Airflow and just seeing the status of all the pipelines that we've configured. The most important part of that is to make sure that everything is running as expected. I'll also typically have a look at our metrics, check my email, make sure that essentially nothing has failed in a way that I wouldn't expect. Typically this is overboard because we do have alerts and things like that. Then I tend to write a lot of code from there. So either I'll be building a data pipeline in something like Airflow, or we might be working with a system like Presto or Spark to run some kind of big query that we're trying to design. But the gist of it is most of my day is spent actually writing code. I think my favorite thing about my job is the fact that as a data engineer, I get to work with a lot of different people throughout my day-to-day. So not only do I get to work with some of the most exciting tools in engineering today, so tools like Spark or Apache Airflow, things like that, but I also get to actually use those tools to produce something that's really meaningful for the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis. Whether that's a data scientist or a data analyst, or someone in the business who really needs some information, a lot of my job is making something that basically answering a question we couldn't answer 6 months or a year ago, or making a question that we could only answer every week or month, being able to answer that question every minute of every day, or anytime somebody opens up a dashboard. Those are the kinds of things that are really exciting. It feels like we're actually moving forward what we're capable of as a company, and you get to really see how exciting this is for people. So that's definitely one of my favorite things, I think, as a data engineer that I really get to enjoy. So I think one of the things that's difficult about being a data engineer is that you're going to be working with a lot of different data sources in a lot of different forms and quality. So we have data at Spot Hero going back years in many cases, and some of the original data, from when we were just a brand new little itty bitty startup, doesn't really work well in 2018, 2019, so on and so forth, because we've learned a lot about how to actually store and structure our data for processing. So for me, one of the things that's most difficult is figuring out how to get all of this data to work together so that our pipelines run reliably and actually produce meaningful insights. So that can be really difficult in terms of a challenge that I encounter. So my advice for aspiring data engineers is try not to get too lost in the soup of acronyms and tools that exist in the data engineering space. I think that a lot of people, when they first learn about data engineering, they run into this wall of tools and products that they can use to solve data engineering problems. My recommendation would be to focus on a couple of the big names in this space. So learning how to use Airflow, Redshift, Spark, Presto, those kinds of tools is going to be more of a benefit to you than to try to learn 10, 15, 20 things. Data engineering stacks aren't necessarily standardized across the entire industry. So something that I think is really important is to hone in and develop skills that work sort of across the board, but not having to be, having a little bit of expertise in a bunch of tools is better than is not as good as having a lot of expertise in a couple of really big important tools. You want to make sure that you cover your bases. How am I going to organize my data pipelines? How am I going to run big analyses that work on a lot of data? Those are the kinds of things that I would like to emphasize, that when you're starting out, try to figure out tools that are going to benefit you and keep it limited. So as a data engineer, some of the soft skills that are most important are figuring out how to work with your data consumers to actually figure out what the requirements of what you're producing are. So one of the first things you'll notice is that people might ask you, they'll just say, I need data that tells me X or Y, right? And that doesn't really describe to you as a data engineer exactly what you need to build. So it's your responsibility to kind of talk to them human to human, and talking to someone who really may not have a lot of technical skills, and really dig into and understand and sort of empathize with why they need the data, how important it is to them, and figure out how to come up with a solution. And not only is that an important soft skill, I think it's actually one of the best parts of this job, is that you get to work with people from all over their organization or even externally to your organization, and get to explain these really interesting concepts to them. And also try to map concepts to them that might be simple into what might be more complicated on the data engineering side.